Hi and welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Simon and today I'm here with a catch-up bookish wise of the first quarter of the year using the quarter year crisis tag, which I saw the lovely Lauren of LaurenAndTheBooks, who I shall link down below, do a while back. And I was like, oh, I'd really like to give that a whirl. And the end of March came and went and I still haven't done it, but I thought, oh, I'll do it now because I'm a little bit time poor. I've got a huge haul that I need to film at some point. Plus I'm making reading vlogs of the Women's Prize for Fiction Longest 2024. And I thought, oh, this might bring in a different mix of bookish chat than I've done for a little while. So yeah, that is my plan. I will be talking about the books that I've read up to the 31st of March / 1st of April, because that is the first quarter, although there may be a sprinkling of hints about how some of my reading has gone since then, but yes, more on that in a bit. So there's 8 questions and I'm going to start off at the beginning with number 1. So the first question is, how many books have you read so far this year? Now, I'm always a little bit hesitant to answer questions like this because I'm aware that I don't read a normal amount of books. I read quite an abnormal amount of books. And sometimes social media can perpetuate this almost feeling that you need to be reading like it's a race to read the most books you can. And actually, this year has been a slower reading year for me in many ways, but I've still somehow, and I was quite shocked to discover this when I went back through Instagram because my story graph is a mess. It's also not one that I have publicly because I like to keep some things a secret. Shh. But I have, well, going back to Instagram, I realised that I had read 30 books so far this year and have had 2 DNFs. I say that up to the end of March because since March I've had 3 DNFs, but we'll come back to DNFing later. So yeah, 30 books so far, but like I said, I'm aware that's kind of an abnormal amount of books to read in 4 months. Although I say that, I'm usually read more, so it's an anomaly this year in all sorts of ways. Anyway, that's how many books, so there we are. I would say this isn't part of the question, but it did make me think, how good has my reading year been? And I did look on Storygraph, but admittedly, like I said, it's all over the place and I haven't marked some books or even added some books to the list that I have read, hence why I went back to Instagram. This isn't going to be an edited video, by the way, so you're going to get ramblings and all. But yeah, I would say that despite my I don't use Goodreads anymore. Despite Storygraph saying that my reading year so far has been a 4.25 on average, I think it's maybe been more of a 3.5. Which is not bad. Like 3.5 is pretty good. But I think at the beginning of the year, I was really hoping this year was going to be like a 5 out of 5 year. And I don't know if those reading years will ever happen again. Not to be gloomy and doomy, but just because as I try to read lots more different books and genres and all that kind of thing, it is going to be a little bit hit and miss. And so I do wonder sometimes, oh, should I be sticking with what I know and love? I don't know. It's something that I'm thinking about and is a rhetorical question that I've just sort of asked myself on the Tinterweb. So yeah, 30 books and it's been an all right reading year. Not my best ever, but certainly not my worst. And there are things that I'm going to look at, well, later on in this video, because some of the questions I asked that I'm hoping will steer it maybe to more of a 4 out of 5 year, or even let's go wild and say we would like to hit a 4.5 out of 5 year. I mean, I'd be happy with 4.25. Anyway, we're moving on, we're overthinking it, let's go. So question 2, have you found a book that you think might be a favourite? There is also the option to say that if you haven't, what's been the closest to a 5-star? Now, I have read a few 5-star books this year, which has been brilliant. And I would say this might surprise people actually, because my favourite book of the year up to March was one that I made a whole video about, which is I Who Have Never Known Men. I'll link that video down below if I can remember. But I then read Clear by Karis Davis, and this just absolutely bowled me over. I love Karis Davis's writing anyway. I think she's the absolute, well, I just think she's a genius. And when it comes to short form fiction, be it short stories or novellas, I just think they're almost flawless, frankly. And this is set on a remote Scottish island, and we get to meet two different men who are from very different walks of life and who are brought together due to circumstance, sort of, and it's how these two very different men sort of end up having to spend time with each other and how they get to understand each other, because language is also a really big part of this book. I don't want to say any more than that, other than I absolutely loved the way this book ended, the open-ended nature of it, but kind of what it was hinting at, I thought was so wonderful. And I just think she's phenomenal. I love her brooding atmospheres. I love her characters who can quite often be a little bit, I suppose, off kilter with society, I guess I would say. And just every word counts and every word is wonderful. And I just, absolutely love Karis Davis. I would like to do a video on all of Karis Davis' books so far, because I've read them all, and do a kind of author spotlight. If you'd like to see that, let me know in the comments down below. Also, I would like to do, because I haven't done a wrap up since January, and I'm going to do sort of a spring reading wrap up with the exception of all the Women's Prize longlist books, because I'll be doing a video on them separately. And in the interim though, I was wondering, because that probably won't be until sort of early mid-May, would you like possibly a video of some highlights of the books that I've read since I last did a wrap up in the interim, such as Clear and another couple of 5-star books that I've read? Would that be nice? Let me know that in the comments down below too. Anyway, that's question 2. So question 3 is any 1-star books or your least favourite book of the year. Now this I originally gave a 3.5 stars. It went down to a 3 stars, and more distance I've had from it, I'd say it's a 2.5, but I still think that's pretty decent. It's not a 1 star. It's O Caledonia by Elspeth Barker. And I read this because I was going to Scotland and it was set in Scotland, and Maggie O'Farrell had given an introduction and Ali Smith had quoted it on the cover and loads of people had raved about it. And I even had this cover imported from America because I think it's absolutely stunning. It was described as a book about the death of a young woman and who had killed her, which is the opening of the book where this young woman dies. But then we go back to her childhood, well, pretty much to her birth, learn about her parents, learn about her family as they moved to various different places, including this big old crumbly house, which is normally my sort of catnip reading wise. And as it went on, I just got quite bored by it, but also quite frustrated because I felt Elspeth Barker really bullied her main character and really picked on her. And it started to, rather than make me sympathise or empathise, I just felt desperately sorry for her, but also annoyance at Elspeth Barker. I just didn't feel like the balance was quite there. And also I was really disappointed that this jackdaw didn't turn up until quite a lot later. And I won't lie, I was quite disappointed by the mystery. So there we are, we have that one. I did also want to mention another book that I kind of feel I want to mention this because I've seen some rumblings about it online, and that is Restless Dolly Maunder by Kate Grenville. And I talked about this in my last video and vlog, which was my first reading vlog, reading the Women's Prize for Fiction Longlist 2024. And I love Kate Grenville, and this book has been getting a bit of a caning, and I just wanted to say I was a bit disappointed with this book. I felt like actually it would have been a better non-fiction book or a better, more epic novel. It's not my favourite of her books. In fact, it's probably my least favourite of her books. So I just wanted to bring this in a really roundabout way of saying, if you have read this and you're a bit disappointed, please check out other Kate Grenville books, because she is usually absolutely phenomenal. This I just think is a bit of a dud, but also possibly a good way in to Kate Grenville, but it just doesn't show her a full flare, which is quite interesting that it's therefore been longlisted for a prize. But I have more thoughts on the Women's Prize longlist coming in a vlog that should have gone live today, but probably will go live on Tuesday, just because lots going on, not so much time to edit, but I am trying to film snippets where I can. So anyway, just wanted to mention that. That felt like a backhanded way to bring this book in to a video, but I felt like I just need to say that because since that video I recorded, I've just seen a bit more discourse about this, and I was like, no, this book needs a bit, you know, it's not her best, but her writing is usually amazing. So there. Anyway, moving on to genre so far is question 4, and well, it's going to be no surprise to anyone, literary fiction is what I tend to head to. I would like to get more crime fiction in my reading diet, so that's something I'm going to probably focus on a little bit more. I'd also just like to, dare I say, try a little splash of fantasy, maybe a little bit of sci-fi, although I have headed to a sci-fi book that I didn't really care for, but it's because it was the third in the series, and that's not the best way to get into a series at all. Anyway, more on that at another point. Yeah, I would like to sort of read a little bit more of those, and also non-fiction I would like to head to a lot more, but I will be, as we'll talk about in a bit. Lots of teasing in this video, telling you about stuff I'm going to talk about later. Question 5 is, and I keep looking down there because I've written down the questions because I was going to get my other phone, but then if you've got 2 phones, people think you're a drug dealer. Which I categorically, just for the record, I'm not. So anyway, apart from dealing books, I could happily be a book dealer. Wow, I wish I was editing this video and I could take all of that out, but I can't. So question 5, a book that surprised you, and it is, I've just realised I read this since the 1st of April. Oh, so I need to think of another book that surprised me. 1 second, caller. This is going to be the only edit that I make, so I'm just going to stitch these 2 bits together. Andy's back with a book that surprised him before the 1st of April, which was Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors. Now, I'd seen this everywhere on BookTube, Bookstagram, the works, and I don't know if that was something that slightly put me off, because like, oh, everyone's reading this. But it kind of sometimes does, if I'm being 100% honest, which I always will be on this channel, as you know. But there was something else about it that, I don't know if it was the font, I don't know if it was the image on the cover, I don't know if it's the fact they used this pink with the author's name. I'm not sure what it was, but it kind of was giving me light, possibly a bit of fluffy vibes, maybe a bit of a romance, which I'm not really that into. I was completely and utterly wrong, and it was the lovely Jordan at West Kirby Bookshop who was like, you would love this author just as a person, but also this book is fantastic, it's set in New York, it's about characters that come fully formed, flaws and all, with possibly a little bit more emphasis on the flaws. And so I gave it a whirl. Was a dreadful buddy reader with the lovely Richard of Reading Raccoon over on Instagram, because I just ended up getting to it way later than I intended. But yeah, I thought this was incredible. It's set in New York, which is my 2nd favourite city in the world after Edinburgh. And it's about Cleo and Frank who meet after a New Year's Eve party, and there's this connection between them and this sort of frisson, and you're part of that as he walks her home, and there's an age gap between the 2 of them, and they kind of fall in lust and love and get married very quickly. And lots of people have lots of opinions on this. Some people feel like Frank is having a midlife crisis. Some people feel like Cleo is a trophy wife. Some people feel like Cleo has married Frank so that she can get a visa. And what happens is you get to know Cleo and Frank, but also all of the people around them with all of these different opinions, but also what's going on in their lives. And I absolutely loved it. Cannot recommend it enough. Very much looking forward to Blue Sisters and doing an event with Coco Mellors for that book in May next month. So we have that one. Now, the next question is a book that came out in 2023 that you want to read, you haven't yet. I think it's meant to be 2024, but Lauren said 2023 in her video, and I really liked that idea in the fact that there are often books you meant to read the entire year before the one you're in that you're determined that you'll get to and you don't. And there is one book that was very much a book I wanted to read all year last year. However, and small plug here, I have picked it for my Patreon book club in June, and it is Hungry Ghosts by Kevin Jared Hussein. And all I know about this is that there were some rave reviews when it was about to come out. Bernardine Evaristo loved it. It's described as a Trinidadian Gothic, and for book club we read the incredible Caribbean Gothic Serious Blooms at Night last year, I think it was, and absolutely loved it. So I was like, right, this is going to be, I think, our sort of book club catnip. And so yeah, I also love the paperback edition of this. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and it's been up for a few awards and stuff, which is fab. So yeah, so I meant to read this all last year, but I'm definitely going to be reading it this year. And there's currently a vote going on over on Patreon. If you'd like to join Patreon, it's always linked down below, and this is on the book club tier, where there are 2 books that we may end up reading for May's book club, and yeah, people are voting as we speak, possibly. So yeah, very, very much looking forward to this. I will talk more about those 2 books shortly because they're books that I want to read for a themed vlog, which we'll talk about in a bit, themed vlogs and all that kind of stuff. So there we are. Now, going back to what I think is meant to be the question, which is a book that's come out in 2024 that you've wanted to read but not got to yet. It is The Night Alphabet for me by Joelle Taylor. And actually, Katie, who is a member of Patreon Book Club, was raving about this last night when we had a catch up, because we read, well, going forward, we do two book clubs that are about a specific book, and then every 3rd book club is actually where we just catch up and talk about our favourite and least favourite books from the last quarter and any other chatterings and musings and thoughts we want to have. Anyway, Katie mentioned this last night, and it reminded me how much I wanted to get to it. It's a book about a woman who goes to have a tattoo, or whether she gets the tattoo she already has, all like lines linked to them. She's covered in them, and as she's having this tattoo, she talks about where she had these tattoos and why, and some of them are from her past, but also some of them are from her future, and it's just meant to be amazing. Joelle Taylor is a fantastic poet, and I do tend to love novels and indeed memoirs by poets, often like loads and loads and loads and loads, more than other books sometimes. I said often and then sometimes, like I was hedging my bets there a little bit, but yeah, generally, if a novel or a memoir is written by a poet, I generally tend to really love it. That's what I meant. So yeah, very excited for this. I think Ben Reedsgood has read it and loved it. I definitely was raving about it before it came out as in one of the books he was most excited to read, and it's definitely been one that I've been really keen to read. I just haven't got around to it yet, but I will do soon. So there we go. And then, because I couldn't just leave it at 2, could I? No. I thought I'd mention a book that hasn't come out yet in 2024 that I'm really, really excited for. So a book that's high on my periphery. It's Sociopath by Patrick Gagney. And this is Patrick's memoir of being a sociopath. And it sounds like it's going to be absolutely incredible. A bit of a jaw dropper, possibly a little bit difficult to read at points and maybe a bit challenging, but that's always a good thing. And yeah, just a very frank, forthright book about being a sociopath. So there we go. I should be heading to that very soon. Then the penultimate question is one goal you've made that you're succeeding in. Now, I don't like making goals. I don't really like making resolutions anymore. So this year, for the first time, I made 10 resolutions. No, I didn't. I just said I don't like to make resolutions. I made 10 intentions, and 3 of them were for the channel, 3 of them were for reading, and 4 of them were for life. I will link that video down below because I'm not going to go through all 10 now, because that could get a little bit boring, especially if you've seen that video before. Although if you would like an update on all of my intentions and how I'm doing with them in the middle of the year, let me know and I'll try to remember to do that. But the one that I have stuck to, and the only one out of all 9, literally the only one, has been to DNF more. And up to April, I DNF'd 2 books. I probably maybe should have DNF'd Elspeth Barker's book in hindsight, but I don't know, I just didn't. So it's definitely something I'm still working on, but I have definitely done it. And since April, I've actually DNF'd 3 books. So there we go. That is definitely something that, it's not like I'm going out of my way to DNF a book, but definitely if a book just isn't right for me right now, or possibly right for me ever, I'm just gonna stop, because there's so many books that I want to get to, and so many books by some of my favourite authors I haven't got to from their back catalogue. I just don't want to be mucking about with it, really. So yeah, I'm chuffed that I've been doing that pretty well so far this year, but it is, like I said, the only one of 9 that I've kept to, which links to question 8, the final question for this tag, which is one goal you need to focus on. Now actually, I'm going to say that I need to focus on 4-ish, because if we go very quickly through what my goals were for reading and then the channel, I wanted to read, but not goals, intentions. I wanted to, my number 1 intention for reading was to read by whim a lot more. I have tried that so far this year, but I actually think it's just not for me. I think I like to do it on occasion, but I actually like the structure of having a specific set of books to read, because when I go off on a whim, I have noticed I spend more time trying to pick what I want to read next than I would, which I could be spent reading if I just knew that I had like a list of books to get through. And the exception that I made to like reading by whim was reading the Women's Prize for Fiction long list, which has been an interesting time, as you'll see from that blog coming next week, specifically with the last set of books. And whilst I'm like, oh, long list, I couldn't read like all the time, I could definitely head to shortlist more. And I have got 3 shortlists that I would like to head to. The first of which is, although it'll actually be the last of which, because the winner for this is announced on the 13th of June, along with the Women's Prize for Fiction. This is the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction shortlist. My mum has loved this long list so much, and so I'm super excited to get to the shortlist. I know this isn't the long list, but anyway, moving on. So yeah, I'm looking forward to heading to these, but that probably won't be until I think the end of May. Before then, though, I want to get to the the shortlist for the Booker International Prize. Until the other day, I only had one of them. I then fell into Waterstones and ended up buying the other 5, and actually made a, and then I didn't make a vlog. What am I talking about? Although they are talked about in my next vlog, but I made a reel, and I have really struggled with reels in Instagram a bit this year, but that was the most fun I've had creating short content in ages. So I think I'm going to try and get back into the swing of reels, but I need to read these before the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction, because the winner is announced, I think, the 12th or 13th of May, maybe a little bit later. And then before that, the winner of the Carol Shields Prize for 2024 will be announced, and here is the shortlist, which, I won't lie, this is one of the shortlists I've been most excited for probably in the last couple of years, because I know Claudia Day and I love her writing. I've wanted to, ever since I've heard about Brotherless Night, actually since it was announced on the long list for the Women's Prize, because I hadn't heard of it until then, which is what's great about long list. But the feedback I'm hearing on this one, feedback, that's not right, but what people are saying about this, having read it, is amazing. I've been wanting to read Coleman Hill for ages, as I have as the History of Burning. This one is a bit more of a gambit because I didn't really like the Luminaries, but I'm just interested to try her again. And going back to mentioning Patreon book club pick for May, these are the 2 that people are voting for, and whichever one gets the most votes will be the one that we read in May. It may be either one of these. There, I've done that joke again, sad, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, so if you want to join in the Patreon book club and vote, it's like I said on the book club tier. These are both out in the UK and Australia and America, which is where predominantly my book clubbing friends are from, and Europe actually, to be fair. So yeah, they're voting for these right now because, as I said, these are going to be reading books I do, and this one is going to be one that I need to film pretty much at the beginning of May, after maybe having a couple of weeks off themed reading vlogs, because I don't want them to be the only thing I do. But I think maybe, like I was saying, as I'm struggling to read by whim, it might be quite nice to have them here and there where there's a more structured amount of reading. The other one was to tackle the TBR, and that's one of the things that I do most with my reading prompts. So for any of you who've missed them, my mum and I picked 13 prompts out of this jar here, which were all suggestions by lots of you lovely lot, and we read to those prompts roughly once a month, but you can do it however you want because it's meant to be fun, not homework. And yeah, so that's been where I've been mainly reading tackling the TBR and sort of shopping my shelves, but it's definitely something I need to do more of and work harder on. So there's that. And then the other one was DNF more, which I've been doing. And then just very quickly with my channel intentions, one was to create content from what I'm reading and doing, not reading to create content. And I think bar reading for the Women's Prize for Fiction long list, but that was always going to be one that I was going to do, or a project that I was going to do. I've been pretty good at that. I haven't captured as much content as I want, or made as much content, that's probably better. I haven't made as much content on the channel as I would like this year. Things have just been a little bit busier because I've taken on more work and blah, 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 which again went against one of my intentions for life, which you can find out below, or not for life this year. So yeah, that is something that I'm still sticking to pretty much. Capturing the year was another intention, and I have done that, but I haven't shared it like I wanted. So I haven't been very good at doing wrap-ups this year, and my plan was at the end of a wrap-up of what I'd read, I was going to have like I don't know, 10 to 30 second snippet of every day throughout the month. So that'd be quite a long video, so maybe even like a 5 or 10 second snippet of every day throughout that month that I would add after the book. So I literally wrapped up the books and wrapped up the month, but maybe I'll do a bit of a chunkier one of those when I do my next wrap up, which will be my February, March and April reads, with the exception of the Women's Prize for Fiction long list, because that'll get its own video when I rank them and work out what I want my shortlist to be. Anyway, yeah, so I've captured it. I haven't been as good at sharing it as I would like, but that's something that I can work on. And trying different things I definitely have not done on this channel. I have a little bit more on Instagram, where I tend to get a bit more stage fright. I overthink Instagram really badly, so I go to do like a post and then I start to think, who even cares? Like, who's bothered? Have I said this already? Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. But I start to think, who cares who's even bothered? And so I just don't post. So yeah, a little bit of stage fright. But like I said, I did that reel with these and really enjoyed that. And that was something a little bit different. So maybe I'll do more reels. But if there's anything you'd like to see me do that I'm not doing, so doing something different, or anything that I am doing but doing it differently, like hauls, wrap-ups, want to bring them back, vlogs, etc., I always love to hear your ideas and your thoughts and your constructive feedback in the comments down below. Even if I don't do it straight away, it's always in there percolating somewhere. I kind of just want to keep doing that. Let's move on. So really, I need to work on 5 of those, and that's fine, because one of my other intentions was to be kind to myself and not beat myself up about anything, and I'm not doing that, because intentions are just sort of like little guidelines really on what you're intending to do, and also they can change, can't they? So there we are. I would love to hear your answer to the questions, which I'll pop in the description box. Either if you've done it on a channel, if you have one already, link that video down below, or consider yourself tagged by watching this. That's one thing I didn't used to like about tag videos. They felt a little bit like a popularity contest, a bit like tagging on Instagram actually. And I'm not for that, because everyone's welcome to give this a whirl. You're all delightful, you're all lovely. And if you don't have a channel, like I said, I'll left the questions in the description box so you can answer them in a comment below. That would be lovely. I hope you're all doing something lovely. Well, hopefully you're enjoying watching this. But anyway, I hope you're reading something lovely. And if you're not, put it down. DNF it for now or forever. Pick something else up. Go on. But yeah, I hope you're all doing super duper well. And I will see you in another video very soon. Bye.